Hi everyone, I just saw The Monkey, a partially successful film about the strangling power of different kinds of tradition. Family tradition, paternity in particular, and I think also tradition as genre. The film is about both of these forces and the mechanistic, cruel way in which they force themselves upon people's lives and experiences. So, in a strange way, the film is a protest against the cage of Hollywood's own self repetitions. It talks about the tradition that started, if you like, in the late 90s when they, or restarted in the late 90s when they revisited 70s horror and produced things like I Know What You Did Last Summer, and in particular, Final Destination. This film really is a very similar story, I think, to Final Destination. One watches it for very similar pleasures, and the result is something that is both an homage to that kind of film and also filled with hostility towards it. Almost at times, it felt to me hatred and fear towards it. And in that sense, it's an Oedipal film, right? It's a film about parents that we love and hate. The film stars Theo James as both twins, obviously two twins, and they, as children, have found that their father has been killed by, uh, and that their mother is then killed by a monkey, a toy monkey. That is a spoiler, but I mean you have to expect by now that you're going to get the occasional one in these précis. But the thing is that you really know from the beginning that everyone's going to die, or at least that a large number of people are going to die, because that's really the subject of the film. We spend half of the film watching people being killed, or else we're at their funerals. This monkey, once the lock in its back is turned, starts to mechanistically drum a little tune, and then to a little tune, and then what happens is that somebody somewhere dies, someone in the vicinity. The monkey itself, with its hideous, gurning little face, appears to choose its victims. Its logic isn't clear as to why it chooses one particular person over another, but certainly it operates as some kind of family curse. As one character says at one point, the men in our family have been turning this key for generations. So it's a metaphor and a synecdoche of family curses of all kinds. You know, you might inherit almost anything from your father that's horrific. My father died of a rare cancer, and I probably spend too much time worrying about getting it. Uh, Similarly, your father might have had other things, might be mental illness or alcoholism, or it might be uh, neglect. It might be toxic masculinity, right? I mean, there's a lot of that in this film as well. And then one of these twin brothers has a son, and his way of trying to protect his son from the monkey curse is to not see the sun. And of course, that changes, and the sun gets drawn in to the final confrontation with this horrific creature. Uh, Obviously, the way that you actually avoid causing carnage with this appalling creature is to not turn the key in its back. I thought that was a very interesting image. How do you resist the thing that's sitting right in front of you, the door that you shouldn't open, the temptation you shouldn't surrender to? It's in its way, it's a great metaphor for the tragic way that we choose our fate, the literally tragic way that we inherit dispositions and temptations that we can't necessarily resist or control. But of course, because the film is just an escalating series of unlikely supernatural deaths, and because the film is a collection of tropes from the haunted toy, though we're not supposed to call it that, as we keep being told, to the twins, to actually the father-son relationships, to the whole story of Oedipus, to the endless series of images from Americana, sinister cheerleaders, isolated houses, motels. I mean, it's just like a collection of second-hand things and inherited things itself. we are constantly reminded that this is a film that is unoriginal, a film about origins that is unoriginal and not trying to be original except in its self-awareness. For me, that worked. It was clever. It was it was a film about, as I say, about how repetitious and anticlimactic, but also fatal capitalism in cinema is. The way in which, we've just had this whole story with Bond, and producers of Bond, the Broccolis, the wonderfully named Broccolis, refusing to give over the franchise to the tender mercies of a marketplace that would transform it into an endless series of ramifying story, Money, Penny, and Q, and it would just get eaten out and wasted the way that Marvel has, I think. And so we know that these properties, these tropes, these films get turned into horrible, self-repeating, mechanistic toys. And the question is, how do we save culture from endless repetition? But what's very clever about this film is that through repeating itself and through repeating other films, it reveals that question as a very, very ancient one. A question about how we grow up, how we handle inheritance, and how we become, perhaps a little oppressively in this film, because it's very gendered, men. Good film, worth seeing. I didn't find it that scary, but then, I have to ask myself right now, is that a tap, tap, tap that I can hear from the next room? If not, then I'll see you soon.